Okay, so this is the second energy system or metabolic pathway system for making energy for the cells. So because the ATP creatine phosphate system is so limited and only lasts for a short amount of time, most ATP is made through the glycolytic system. So in this process, glucose, which is stored in the liver and muscles, is broken down through a series of actions to become ATP. This is a longer pathway, so it's gonna take a couple minutes. So we start with glucose. This system, unlike the other system, requires energy to produce ATP. So you're using ATP to produce ATP. So we start with glucose. Glucose has to be turned into glucose 6-phosphate in order to be broken down into ATP. This is where it begins. But in order to do that, you have to use ATP. So you're going to lose 1 mole of ATP to break down into glucose 6-phosphate. Now this process needs to happen about 10 to 12 times in order to make pyruvic acid, which is then broken down into lactic acid. And this is why a lot of athletes start feeling fatigue during long, extensive workouts, because the lactic acid builds up in their muscles, which causes muscular fatigue. Lactic acid is broken down in the cell cytoplasm. And again, all of this takes energy. So eventually the lactic acid is broken down in the cytoplasm and you get 3 moles of ATP. And if you use glucose instead of glycogen, you're not going to get 3 moles. You're only going to get 2, because of the 1 mole that was already used to take the glucose to glucose 6-phosphate. So again, if you use glucose, then you're going to get glucose 6-phosphate, you're going to get 2 moles of ATP. But if you use glycogen, you're going to end up, it's the exact same process, you're only going to end up with 3 moles of ATP because you didn't have to use the original mole of ATP to convert the glycogen to glucose 6-phosphate. That is the glycolysis method for metabolic pathways.